Welcome to Conversations Across Time. The year is 2025. The United States is approaching its 250th birthday, and the national mood is anxious. We feel the machinery of the republic grinding. We see the cracks in the foundation, but mostly we feel paralyzed. We have fallen into what we call the scholastic trap, the belief that our institutions are fragile museum pieces, too sacred to touch and too brittle to fix. We are terrified that if we try to repair them, we will break them. So we wait. We wait for experts. We wait for permission. Tonight, we return to the source. We are going back to meet a man who never waited for permission. A man who understood that a republic is not a monument to be preserved, but a machine to be repaired. The setting is Philadelphia. The air in the enclosed garden is heavy with the scent of wisteria and damp earth. Benjamin Franklin sits in a specially modified chair under a mulberry tree, his legs wrapped in flannel to ward off the gout. He is tuning a strange instrument made of spinning glass, bowls the glass harmonica.
Dr. Franklin?
A moment. Do you hear that? The Angel's E-flat. I was told this instrument drives people mad. I find it rather settles the digestion.
It is beautiful. You were always fascinated by invisible forces: electricity, sound, heat.
I was a boy once, wearing wooden paddles on my hands to swim faster. Curiosity is a hunger, isn't it? Some men hunger for gold, some for God. I hungered to know how things worked, how the water moved when I swam, how heat radiated from a stove, how fire could be harnessed rather than feared.
That is exactly why I'm here. In my time, a philosopher one who sent me wrote about that same hunger. He calls it the fire analogy. He argues that rightness or truth isn't something you find, it is something you build, like a fire.
A constructed truth. Go on. A fire needs fuel.
Moral authenticity is the fuel. It is the genuine desire to know what is actually true rather than what is comfortable. Without that courage, nothing burns.
A sound premise. Most men prefer the warmth of a lie to the heat of the truth. And the air.
Better arguments are the oxygen. You need fresh air, superior evidence, new logic to keep the flame alive. You cannot just recycle old smoke.
And the heat.
The test of time. You cannot rush it. Ideas need to be stressed and heated over long periods to prove they are real. And finally, acceptance is the spark. Without the spark of accepting what you find, even if it burns, youth pile never lights.
Fuel, oxygen, heat, spark. That is elegant. It is a natural philosophy of the soul. You are saying that truth is a chemical reaction, not a dogma.
Exactly. And if any one of those elements is missing,
the fire goes out. I fear you have come to tell me that my own fire was sometimes lacking in oxygen. Or perhaps the spark came too late.
You tamed the lightning by understanding nature, but I am here to discuss whether you mastered your own nature using that same rigorous standard. I represent a framework called the authentic method.
Very well. You have brought your flint and steel. Let us see if my life burns, or if it merely smokes.
Before we begin the assessment, I need to establish who we're assessing, because context matters. You're not just some historical figure who happened to leave records. You're arguably the most consequential private citizen in American history.
Flattery will not soften the critique, I suspect.
This isn't flattery. It's accounting. When we examine your failures, and we will examine them rigorously, I want readers in 2025 to understand what was at stake. Because the same mind that made catastrophic errors also revolutionized science, invented institutions that still serve millions, and arguably saved the American Revolution. So let's start with what you built.
Very well. Make your case.
Let's begin with electricity. When you started your experiments in the 1740s, electricity was a parlor trick, a curiosity. People would rub glass tubes and watch sparks fly. That was the extent of human knowledge.
It seemed poorly understood. The theories made no sense.
You conducted systematic experiments for 7 years. You proved that electricity was a single fluid, not two separate forces. You established positive and negative charges. You demonstrated that lightning was electrical in nature, not the anger of God, but a natural phenomenon that could be studied and controlled. And then you published experiments and observations on electricity in 1751.
The Royal Society initially rejected it. They thought I was a colonial amateur making wild claims.
They did. And then scientists across Europe began replicating your experiments. The French did it. The British did it. The Russians did it. Within 5 years you went from rejected amateur to fellow of the Royal Society. By 1753 you'd won the Copley Medal, essentially the Nobel Prize of your era. You revolutionized humanity's understanding of a fundamental force of nature.
I simply asked better questions than those who came before.
No, you did more than that. You invented the methodology for studying electricity. You created replicable experiments. You insisted on peer review. You published your method so others could verify your work. That's not just discovery, that's the creation of scientific infrastructure. Bacon's Novum Organum.
Yes, the true and lawful goal of the sciences is to endow human life with new inventions and riches. But more than that, Bacon taught me that you must guard against the idols of the mind. Preconceived notions, wishful thinking, the desire to be proven right rather than to discover what is true. So I built my experiments to be testable. If I claimed lightning was electricity, anyone with a kite and the key could verify it.
You applied Bacon's inductive method: observation, systematic recording, gradual generalizations tested by experiment.
Exactly, and publication of methods. Bacon insisted on this, that knowledge must be shared, verified, built upon. If I'd kept my electrical theories private, they would have died with me. But by publishing every detail, I invited the world to prove me wrong or confirm me right. That's Bacon's gift to science, the idea that truth emerges not from authority, but from evidence that anyone can examine.
And that's exactly what happened. The Royal Society, founded on Baconian principles, ultimately honored your work.